Today, most movies, from action and superhero movies to sci-fi and fantasy epics, use computer-generated imagery. Getting CGI right is very hard and expensive, so it's not surprising that so many movies have bad CGI scenes. Most CGI has flaws that only experts can see, but the worst movies have CGI flaws that even the audience can point out. Now in this video, we're going to talk about the movies with the worst CGI. First off, at number 13, we have Justice League. After Zack Snyder left the project, director Joss Whedon changed the story for the theater version of Justice League. The movie had a new, lighter tone, and the characters were almost made from scratch. For example, in Justice League, Whedon cut important scenes with Cyborg that changed the story. Justice League also had a lot of reshot scenes, some of which had CGI that was so bad it was funny. Even though some of the battle scenes were iffy, a few big problems really upset fans. In the very end, Superman's race against the Flash was almost too blurry to see. But by far, the worst was when they tried to get rid of Henry Cavill's mustache in reshot scenes. The result was a horrifying face that immediately took people out of the action. At number 12, we have The Matrix Reloaded. The second movie in the Matrix trilogy is fun to watch and has some great ideas, but for the time it was way too ambitious. Due to the movie's simulated reality, the action scenes and stunts can be bigger than life. However, we couldn't look past one scene because it was just too bad. Neo's fight against a lot of clones of Agent Smith wasn't even good enough for a PS2 game. Neo's character model was not human, and it was clear where the green screen began and ended. Even though it's a fun scene that's been copied into other media, it's hard to look past the clunky CGI characters. At number 11, we have Black Panther. Black Panther was a great movie with great characters and a well-made world. It performed pretty well at the box office. But like many modern Marvel movies, it relied too much on CGI and not enough on real-world effects. Black Panther had a lot of exciting action scenes, from fights between two people to big battles. Part of the problem was that T'Challa's suit was all made with computer graphics. Also, like Catwoman, Black Panther's movements show CGI strangeness. It was even worse because the editors added motion blur to hide the many CGI mistakes. Now at number 10, we have Jurassic World. Even though the Jurassic World trilogy showed that there were still a lot of fans of this franchise, many people felt that the movies were not as good as the first one. One of the biggest complaints was that there was too much bad CGI, which didn't look as good as the effects and puppets in the 1993 movie. The opening of the park's entrance gate, which was redone with CGI, seems to add to this feeling. One Reddit user went so far as to call it an abomination and an insult to the original. At number 9, we have the Hobbit trilogy. You can argue about how good Peter Jackson's Hobbit movies were until your face turns red, but you can't deny that they relied too much on CGI. The impressive, highly detailed sets and miniatures from the much better Lord of the Rings movies were gone. In their place were big effects and a gaudy sheen that made everything look even more fake. Even though a lot of work went into the visual effects of these movies, and some of it looks great, something's wrong when these movies cost 3 times as much as their predecessors but look 3 times worse. Just look at how cartoony the goblins are to see how wrong the CGI direction of this overstuffed trilogy went. At number 9, we have Green Lantern. Another superhero in Green Lantern wore a suit made entirely of CGI. Ryan Reynolds' green suit was so bright and clashed so badly with his skin that it almost looked like it had been sprayed on with goo. Also, his mask covered his eyes, so they had to be animated like a character in a video game instead of an actor in a movie. Reynolds has a small waist, skinny arms, and big shoulders, which make him look more like a cartoon than a man. Many of the other minor characters and the green things they made with their power rings were all made with CGI. Even Parallax, who was supposed to be a bad guy, failed to impress fans with his boring and poorly made CGI. Next up at number 7, we have Tron Legacy. The first Tron movie came out in 1982 and was a technical marvel. It looked like CGI before it was even possible. Because of this, people had a lot of hopes for the long-awaited sequel, Tron Legacy, which finally came out in 2010. The movie was a visual masterpiece that brought the grid, a made-up computer setting, to life in ways that the original movie couldn't have thought of. As good as the movie looked and sounded, the Daft Punk soundtrack was by far the best part. The design of the movie's villain Clue was a big miss. Since Jeff Bridges was almost 30 years older in Clue than he was in Tron, his face was mapped to look like it did when he was younger. The whole show was made with CGI. Even though the technology is impressive, Clue's dead eyes and strange expressions put him squarely in the uncanny valley. This shows that the technology is still a long way from being able to mimic a human actor well. At number 6, we have Jumanji. Jumanji is a favorite childhood movie for many, and for good reason. It's a fun, exciting adventure movie with the late great Robin Williams as its star. The computer-animated animals that often run through suburban neighborhoods are one of the film's most eye-catching parts. As cool as it was to see a group of elephants crush and flip over cars in 1995, these scenes have lost a lot of their impact since then. In particular, the naughty monkeys in the movie look like scary aliens from the real Planet of the Apes, and their crazed eyes will stay with you all night. At number 5, we have Skyscraper. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been in many silly action movies before. Skyscraper, which came out in 2018, fits the bill perfectly, and has become an action movie for people who don't usually like them. People have said they didn't like how much CGI was used in the movie. Unfortunately, the CGI made stunts that would have been interesting on their own look like they came from a video game. From climbing up steel girders to abseiling down the outside of the building, the whole movie might as well be a cartoon. Johnson looked out of place on the obvious green screen background, making Skyscraper just another boring and predictable CG-heavy movie that might be okay for a lazy afternoon. Like San Andreas, fans of other movies by Johnson will still like Skyscraper. Moving on at number 4, we have King Kong. Peter Jackson's remake of King Kong in 2005 was written very well and was a big step forward for motion capture. Unfortunately, the CGI still looked fake and often took people out of the mood of the movie. Andy Serkis, a veteran of the industry, did the motion capture, which gave Kong a realistic set of moves. But the way Kong interacted with the world around him was strange. People could easily tell what was real and what was done with computer graphics CGI. Also, the CGI environments, like the jungle and the city, didn't do much for me. Even early CGI movies have held up pretty well over time, but a lot of King Kong's settings look more like cheap video games than Hollywood blockbusters. At number 3, we have Cats. Cats, which came out in 2019, was not well liked by either audiences or critics. It became known for its strange and disturbing visuals. By making CGI characters that were a mix of people and cats, the live-action version of the hit Broadway show lost a lot of its credibility. Also, the characters were small compared to their environments, which meant that the artists didn't get the scaling right for the digital environments they made. Cats was a movie that was rushed into theaters even though it wasn't done. This was shown by different parts of the unfinished characters, like the fact that they had human hands instead of paws. Also, viewers have been quick to point out that many scenes have bad lighting, making the characters seem stranger and less real. At number 2, we have Hulk. In 2003, Ang Lee directed Hulk, the first live-action movie version of Marvel's Hulk. People who didn't like She-Hulk's CGI would have had a lot of problems with how Hulk used CGI to make the character come to life on the big screen. Even though the character's change was done well, the character model itself was flawed and didn't move right. Some fans also didn't like how too much CGI was used to make new enemies like the Hulk dogs. The threats made with gamma radiation were meant to be scary, but they looked more like cartoons. The Hulk may be one of the most powerful superheroes in movies, but bad CGI made him less powerful. Finally, at number 1, we have Catwoman. Strangely stylized CGI was used in the 2004 movie Catwoman. A lot of it happens during action or acrobatic scenes, and the director would rather have used a CGI model of Catwoman do the stunts than a real person. This was a bad choice, and a lot of the CGI acrobatics make the character look like he or she is stretching and moving. The terrible CGI in Catwoman is made even worse by the fact that Catwoman jumps dozens of feet into the air before starting to walk like a seductive temptress on the prowl. Most of the movie's budget went to paying the actors instead of the VFX department, which can be seen on screen. That's all for this video. Which film do you think had the worst CGI? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.